So everyone knows the real pinnacle to any multiplayer game where other people with good Christian eyes can see you is how you look. Whether you're a role player or a hardcore raider, gamers are all little peacocks who love to look good and show off how good they look to others, whatever good means to you. And yes, I'm absolutely calling myself out because I too like to look good and show off to others like a little peacock. World of Warcraft has been around for almost 2 decades now. And it's come a long way since the days when you could tell someone was leveling an Outland because they looked like a discarded Lisa Frank mistake. I remember when transmog was first introduced and suddenly all the people running around in dungeon and raid sets vanished because it turned out the only thing keeping them in that armor were the stats no matter how fugly it looked. Ugh. But while the fidelity of armor, the world itself, and the important NPCs increased, player characters remained, yeah, let's just cover that up with some nice armor. Perfect. With Warlords of Draenei, however, came new models for the playable races, and much later for the poor Worgen and Goblins, finally fixing the female Worgen just enough for them to not look completely horrendous. See, fashion is only one aspect of character customization, and we've gotten bits and pieces added over time, most recently of course being the Dark Ranger skin for Night Elves, Blood Elves, and Void Elves, tied to completing a new Lordaeron quest chain introduced with 925. I think tying customization unlocks to certain quest chains has a lot of potential for lore and storytelling, and they don't even have to necessarily be long, arduous things. They could be short little stories that unlocks anything from a hairstyle to a whole subrace. With that said, I just want to explore the ways Blizzard could improve character customization with things that would be neat for player freedom, regardless of whether it's feasible or not. So let's get started, shall we? We'll get some universal changes out of the way first: body types and height sliders. Not all MMOs do this, but many have some kind of body editing in one form or another. Star Wars: The Old Republic has 4 distinct body types: skinny, average, brick house, and fat. Though, as is often the case, there is a marked discrepancy. It's like male and female Draenei all over again. Hi, yeah, I need to just, interrupt and point out that putting the 2 pictures next to each other doesn't actually show you the weird, discrepancy between the two. So, you'd expect, just looking at it, that, oh yeah, those look about the same height, but, the man is a bit bigger, because, obviously, I guess. No, let me adjust this so that you see the actual difference that you get in-game. Elder Scrolls Online has a height slider and a body triangle with muscular, thin, and large at its points, plus a separate triangle for the overall face shape of a character, with heroic, soft, and angular for its points. Beyond that, there are a bunch of sliders to make further small tweaks to the face and body, including the delicately phrased posterior dimensions, if you want your character to alert everyone to their presence when they walk. Guild Wars 2 also has a height slider, and then a varied selection of body types to go with it. Introducing just the ability to change the height and body type of our characters would give people a huge degree of freedom. The example that immediately comes to mind for me is your standard male human who looks like he can bench press a cow and eat 16 eggs for breakfast, and then you make him a priest. Or your standard female blood elf who looks like a stiff breeze would snap her in half, but you make her a plate-wearing, two-hander dual-wielding warrior. And before anyone comes for me, I'm not saying that you can't be a dainty girly warrior woman if that's your thing. Be free, do what sparks joy. My point is that it shouldn't be the only option. Okay? Okay. While I'm here, we should also get posture toggles for all the races that are in desperate need of a chiropractor. They must make a killing from troll clients. Moving on, other universal options would obviously be things like scars, vastly expanded or updated hairstyles, picking eye color separately, magic glowing eyes depending on your class, an age slider, and this one is really just because it was neat in Final Fantasy XIV and Elder Scrolls, but voice options. You don't really speak for most or all of both games, but your character does make sounds when they cheer, take damage, etc. And you can pick different voices to make them sound deep, nasal, young, mature, scratchy, that kind of thing. One more thing, being able to directly change how the face looks, either separately editing nose, mouth, jawline and such with sliders, or preset selections that allow for varied and distinguishable looks. Again, I don't want to take away anyone's ability to play an effervescently feminine woman who still kicks ass. I would just like the option to give characters soft or strong features regardless of their gender. Can you tell I've had this argument far too many times? Anyway, on to the specifics. Let's start with humans and move down. While we do have more phenotypes and skin tones now, more is always welcome, and that should come with better hairstyles to go with them, because I'm sorry, but who cleared this? Like, an attempt was made, but goddamn. The others aren't as bad, but Guild Wars 2 implemented really good afro texture hair 5 years ago with their Path of Fire expansion. I mean, look at these. And Guild Wars 2 itself started off not great, but you can put in the effort and go from this monstrosity of an afro to this. Expanding jewellery options could include things like the crests of Lordaeron, Arathi, Theramore, Kul Tirans, and Stormwind as earrings and necklaces. Separating makeup options into individual areas and allowing us to pick each colour would also be good, because you might like what was done with the eyes of a given preset, but you might want a different colour lipstick to go with it. For male humans specifically, give them piercings, jewellery, and makeup, because men deserve to have defined cheekbones too. More facial hair to choose from would also be nice. Female dwarves should have beards, as a treat. No, I'm not joking. Conversely, I just think it would be both funny and cursed if male dwarves had the option of going completely beardless. I mean, it already looks weird if you make one without a mustache, so you just know that sleep paralysis demon potential is hiding just under the surface. Seriously though, this is where I would have folded Wildhammer and Darkiron into the customization for dwarves after doing the requisite questline to unlock them, rather than make them a separate race. So there would be more options for Sky, Flight, and Griffin flavoured stylings for Wildhammer, Earth and Forge related motifs for the Ironforge, and Volcano and Fire inspired looks for the Darkirons. And after expanding the tattoos, piercings, skin tones, hairstyles, beard styles, there should be plenty to differentiate them. Please God, less scowling old man faces for male night elves, let them look young and pretty too. Really though, I would like some reversal and give male night elves some softer, younger looking options, while giving female night elves more mature, grizzled looking ones. Since night elves are supposed to be, in Grom Hellscream's own words, far more savage than any elf he's ever encountered, they should get more options to make them look feral. Sharper nails, bigger fangs, torn up ears, expanded scar options, beard and hair choices that evoke wild energy, that sort of thing. Female night elves should also get a blindfold option as well, which in general should be universal, because, to be honest, demon hunters didn't invent blindfolds. Maybe you want to make a blind warrior because they use enchantments or magic to see. Who knows? We already have the blind looking eyes option, so why not a blindfold? This would be specific to Night Elf Druids, but an option to give them antlers of various size and style sprouting from their browline would be really neat. And yes, I am fully aware that we've only seen like 2 men, Malfurion and Brawl, grow antlers, and it's a sign of great druidic power, but so are gold eyes, and female Night Elves used to not have those, so I don't care. More skin tones, always more skin tones, just give people more choice in how their character looks. But also, this is where I would fold Mecha-Gnome customization into the existing gnomes, and have it come from a questline where a team of gnomes studying the Titan constructs in Northrend have learned how to safely replicate parts of said constructs. I know I'm just kind of now putting my own ideas, how I would have done this, rather than just suggestions, but we're moving on. Considering how much war and strife has afflicted Azeroth in the last few decades, it's not unreasonable to assume there are a lot of people who could do with a prosthetic or two. Of course, some will just want robot parts because cool fantasy cyborg, and that's valid too. It's supposed to be about player choice after all. You could start with gnomes and then gradually add optional swaps to the other races for gnomish replacement limbs, but the more extensive transhumanist, for lack of a better word, augmentations are just for the tech-inclined gnomes. We'll get to goblins. We would fold Lightforged Draenei into regular Draenei as options once you complete the storyline of Argus, and as part of that, priests and paladins can have a permanent holy symbol floating in front of their forehead, regardless of whether they're Lightforged or not. Considering how much strife Draenei have been through and how long they live, they should have plenty of options to outwardly reflect that. This would include scars, more broken horn variants, tails and tendrils that have been cut or damaged, and their own prosthetics that resemble the Warframe technology we see on Argus. Draenei are also one of the races where I feel the body shape options would be most keenly felt, considering males are roughly the size of a refrigerator and females are not. If you don't understand, just compare the Sylvar from Ardenweald. As much as I really hate Shadowlands for a variety of things, I genuinely like that the Sylvar actually look like they're from the same species and aren't absurdly dimorphic. We could also expand our tail and tendril options and add skins to look like an Eridar, because why not? We're eventually getting all the classes for all the races, which will mean Draenei Warlocks. Let's go! That is not a werewolf, okay? That is someone's fursona. And there is nothing wrong with that. Furry characters are great. Their designs can take advantage of a vast array of animal characteristics, fur patterns, and body shapes. But that is not what a Worgen is. Worgen are primal, emerald nightmare wolf-shaped rage machines it takes medication and magical ritual to balance out. They are werewolves. They are meant to be cursed aberrations of what we consider natural, a monstrous blending of human and wolf. This is a fursona. I am not scared of this good boy. Look at his face, he needs scritches and treats. But at least the male Worgen is at least capable of looking a bit scary. The female Worgen is just cemented permanently in fursona territory, and the sad thing is that's a step up from where the model used to be. Bedroom eyes up front and rabid chihuahua vibes from the side. Absolutely f***ing atrocious. Some people like the fursona-looking versions, however, so we should obviously keep those. Again, player choice. I just want it to be expanded, not replaced. To help the Worgen feel more like monsters, there should be body shapes that give them a hulking, looming posture overall, face options that make them a more uncomfortable blend of human and wolf, and fur pattern options that leave some of the skin bare, similar to Skyrim werewolves, as a very clear reminder that this is a human body stretched out of shape by a beast within. Most of this would help the female Worgen more, and if someone wants to argue that a hulking, half-furry wolf woman wouldn't be sexy enough, caring about if the nightmare wolf monsters are sexy enough just because they have tits is what got us this monstrosity in the first place. Just design a monster race to look cool and scary and stop thinking with your pants. Please. Also tails. Blizzard can't be bothered to keep their lore consistent because Gen had a tail in one of the books, so they might as well give Worgen players the options of tails as well. And don't think I'm ignoring the human form. Barely anyone but role players hang out in their human forms because they're boring. They're just regular looking humans. However, if you gave them little cosmetic options like sharp nails, sharp teeth, glowing lupine eyes, pointed ears, wilder hair, as if the wolf still very much affects them even when they aren't actively transformed, that would be very neat and actually make it a curse they can't hide from. But Morgan, how would Gen hide his transformation in the Worgen intro? Magic, shut up. Please God, give Pandaren actual distinct face shapes instead of just painted on patterns, and with body shapes let female Pandaren be as fat as the default male body is. This is something you see often when the option exists. Commit to it. Don't half-ass it because you still want the female option to be attractive and you don't consider women who are too fat to be attractive. I see you. Anyway, let male Pandaren have long tails, jewellery for their ears, and expand the jewellery for both to include symbols of the Celestials, so green serpents, white tigers, black oxen, and red cranes. A special scar option exclusive to the Pandaren should be the burn scars on their palms from joining the Shadowpan, as part of their tests involve retrieving a white-hot coin with the symbol of a tiger on its surface. I won't get into the frankly spiteful way Void Elves ended up in the Alliance when it should have just straight up been High Elves, but expanded High Elf options should include the blue tattoos similar to Ilaria, silver and blue jewellery, etc. Now, because what they actually are, despite these options, are Void Elves, infused with eldritch darkness and cosmic horror, the options that are present are very... Void Elves should have options for monstrous body parts, permanent void skin, tentacles and spurs everywhere, multiple eyes, split open mouths with horrifying teeth. Let people be monsters if they're going to play a race with such a hideous concept. And I mean hideous as a compliment, by the way. It is a very cool concept, but goddamn, fan art by Void Elf fans has gone a long way to illustrating what their characters should be able to look like. Now, there's a problem with Kul Tirans, and that is they were pretty much just regular humans before BFA, but, you know, seafaring folk. They weren't these burly half-giants. Why are only the big folk of Kul Tirans the ones venturing out in a playable sense? Why doesn't Jaina look or sound like that? Because this game is held together by retcons and duct tape, and the Kul Tirans should have just been Drust. But we're not getting into that in this video. For Kul Tiran customization, we could add a ton of nautical tattoos, and since we can transmog everything but legs to be invisible, they can be full body tattoos for Kul Tirans to proudly show off where they've been and what they've overcome. Krakens, Naga, Faceless, other monsters of the deep, the frigid storms of Northrend, the hurricanes of the South Sea. There are a lot of directions to go with tattoos for seafaring people. They also just need more face options in general, but especially face options that allow the men to look younger and less seasoned, and more options that allow the women to look older and more seasoned. I know a few of them do have scars and actual age marks, but like, more. Just always more. Maghar options should be unlocked once you complete a questline to solidify them rejoining the Horde, and it should have been the Outland Maghar. Why did we go back to AU Draenei? What in Thrall's balls was the point of that? Less receding hairlines, more tusk options, including larger tusks for women, wider array of skin colours to incorporate all the different clans along with their corresponding body paints and tattoos, and this is where body options would also be very noticeable. Let orc women be as bulky as the men, let orc men be smaller and lighter. And if I don't mention this, Groxagar will manifest inside my office, so please release male orcs from their browless hell and give them eyebrows. There are so many examples of male orcs in and out of the MMO with eyebrows, but players can't have them? Make it make sense, Blizzard, what is this? Since most of the people killed by Arthas were humans or elves, there really should be an elf option for the Forsaken, which mostly would be ears and slighter, taller bodies on average. They should also have more diverse skin tones to choose from, because despite what some people believe, dying doesn't magically snatch the melanin out of your body. Even some people at Blizzard live under this false assumption, and it's very unfortunate. But really, it should be a no-brainer to add more skin tones that reflect the person who died, and pair that with more diverse phenotypes, or facial structures. Body options for the Forsaken could include things like completely skeletal limbs, or even their entire body as a skeleton, scrap metal limbs powered by enchantment, neck bolts because, haha, Frankenstein reference goes burr, female Forsaken who don't have a jaw, and upright postures. Finally, more accessories that feed into their whole metal golf punk aesthetic. Here, we could have melded the High Mountain into regular Tauren options once we did the questline where they join the Horde. The same could be done with Tonka options after doing their questline in Northrend. And it shouldn't be out of the question to add a story where the remaining Yongol in Pandaria either make peace with the Pandaren and reach out to the Horde after, or they straight up leave Pandaria in search of a new home and join the Horde that way, resulting in Yongol customization as well. We could expand on horn decorations with cuffs, etching and staining, and expand body paints and tattoos to reflect a much wider variety of concepts and tribes. One example of that could be decoration to memorialize the Stone Spire tribe after doing their quest in the Barrens. Again, body types could provide some parity in allowing female Tauren to be just as big and strong with the same pronounced neck. There's an interview where one of the devs mentioned that ogres were going to be playable, but they couldn't figure out how to make the females an attractive option, remarking that female Tauren were weird enough because they didn't have udders. Okay. In Guild Wars 2 you have the Char, a race of big warrior cat people, and the females wear the same armor as the males because the team didn't unnecessarily try to make the female cats visually appealing to the human players. The only way you can immediately tell the difference between a fully armored male and female Char is by looking at their tails, and that is an absolutely chef-kiss design right there. Perfect, A+. I sincerely wish that more video games, and especially MMOs, did the same thing, and it probably would have turned out better had the WoW team taken that option with all the furry races. Also, can we please have more flowers? Not just a toggle. I want to put prairie fire on my shaman. Troll beards. That is all. No, I'm kidding, there's more. Posture toggle. Can you imagine how intimidating regular trolls would be if they stood up like the Zandalari? They are such long boys. Well, the men are anyway, which brings me to the troll women getting the option to be long and lanky as well. Eyebrows, beards, more body paints and tattoos, more tusks and tusk decorations, body hair patterns, and distinct options for Amani, Drakari, and Faraki trolls after doing appropriate questlines. They can stay their own distinct options similar to Kul Tirans, but their aesthetic should be vastly expanded on as well. Include more options to indicate what Loa they're dedicated to, from the gold body tattoos to the earrings and the carvings on their tusks. Give them beards and eyebrows as well, because why the hell not, and provide a variety of different patterns for the osteoderms, from super dense and widespread to none at all. Men should get jewellery as well, spangly chains, bracelets, ear cuffs, necklaces, all of it, and expand the options for women as we go. Lean into sun and blood symbolism, along with makeup, tattoos, and other accessories reminiscent of dragon hawks and lynxes. Give them the claws we see in official art, give the women less diminutive, doll-like faces with fog lights for eyes, and allow them to be just as vicious and threatening. The choice for bigger fangs would further help differentiate them from being just pointy-eared humans, and so would allowing them to be easily taller than humans because they did descend from night elves, and those buggers are meant to be an average of 7 feet tall. We could also add both magical and regular tattoos, with the latter comprising of a lot of blood, death, and rebirth imagery, remembrance of Silvermoon's fall, lost friends and family, and the determination to rise from the ashes. Here we could decouple the hairstyles from facial hair and give goblins separate beards and mustache styles, plus the option for eyebrows because why not, the women have them. While it is nice to be able to choose different chin and nose shapes on goblins, that would be extremely welcome on every race, so Tattoos for goblins can mark their allegiance to a given cartel or goblin-run settlement, and be made up of gold, fire, smoke, and oil-related iconography. As a counterpart to gnomes, goblins could well come up with their own prosthetics given their penchant for explosions. It stands to reason that a fair few of them have lost a hand or foot or more to their own experiments, so goblin prosthetics and cybernetics could be added after completing a related quest chain, and somewhere down the line, horde characters could be customized with goblin-style replacement arms and legs. I'm not actually sure what to add for Nightborne other than extra eye colours like shades of purple, blind eyes, and then red and green eyes for those corrupted by Fel, since you don't need to have joined the Legion or been a willing participant for the demon juice to get you. The Krokul sure are Fel-infused and they didn't join the Legion, they were just surrounded by it. For our foxfolk, we could expand fur colours and patterns, add a bunch of options for different earrings instead of making it a toggle, and they should definitely have scars that cut through their fur because they live in a dangerous desert that's trying to kill them every day. Different tail lengths and styles would also be neat. Now, some of these were shorter than others because I am not in fact an endless fount of ideas, but I am also just one person as opposed to an entire team. Do you have things you want for customization? Things you wish they would have done differently, like making some of the allied races simply an aesthetic option? Tell me, I want to know how other people want to shape their characters. Special shout out to my patrons for putting a dumb smile on my face, and especially to my newest supporters, Broxiga and Crimson. Thank you for watching, please take good care of yourselves, and I will see you next time.